Nigel Farage long to hit the headlines after coming out of the jungle on I'm a Celebrity. In fact, is he ever out of the headlines?
No, and he's taken aim and, as usual, pot shot hit the target against ITV chief Kevin Lygo, who, while he was in the jungle, made some pretty unpleasant remarks about Nigel and, as Nigel said himself, tried to stitch him up.
Let us know what you think. This is what happened. The managing director made a rude one-handed gesture. This is what we've been told. We weren't there, but this is what we're told. Made a rude one-handed gesture at an ITV promotional event when joking about the sign language for Nigel Farage and joked that Nigel would come home in a dinghy after the jungle. Take a listen.
Seems whilst I was in there, one or two people up at the top of ITV were doing their best to make life quite unpleasant for me. But I would say to you, Mr. Kevin Lygo, the boss of ITV, it's up to you, mate. If you want to go to war with me, you really can. The last person that did that was called Dame Alison Rose from that West Bank, and look what happened to her. So I would suggest, Mr. Lygo, that I am prepared to ignore your rude, one-handed gestures, the pathetic attempts by some of your staff to stitch me up. I'm prepared to forget all of it if we can call a truce. But if you really, really want to go to war with me, I don't think it'll do ITV's share price an awful lot of good. So let's please end the nonsense, and let's do it now.
Well, and of course, West Bank shares dived badly after the whole row over debanking Nigel Farage. He did take on Dame Alison Rose. The board of the bank foolishly and recklessly said, we have confidence in her-ish. She's sticking around. The government got involved. They had an emergency board meeting at 10:30 at night, unprecedented, and by 1:30 in the morning, she was out on her ear.
Do you really think Kevin Lygo is worrying about his job this morning? This is all a little bit of a rumble in the jungle.
Well, I think it's very entertaining, rumble in the jungle, and I did think, I hadn't bothered to watch this programme before, really, but when I did tune in, where was he? He was hardly ever on. They were editing him out because they might have paid him a lot of money, but they get all the upfront advertising, don't they? And I think there would be some of those snowflakes at ITV would think, we can't have him win.
But did they? Because they were paying him so much money, allegedly 1.5 million, to get him in there in the first place. So why would they edit him out of a lot of the sequences?
Because he was doing rather well.
I mean, Nigel knew why he was going in there. He knew what was going to happen.
Yeah. Well, look, in the studio, smiling from ear to ear, is Ben Habib from Reform UK, because he's your president, I think, isn't he?
He was my introducer. You know, I was his kind of protege in Parliament. So I owe my political career to Nigel Farage.
So were you glued to the telly for the
I'm
last
with Andrew.
month?
I'm afraid I was not glued. I find it quite boring. I'm a Celebrity. This kind of hanging around, just chatting in the camp most of the time. I saw the bit where they were doing a sort of call centre and they had cockroaches and all sorts of stuff poured all over them when they were trying to get to the answers. Did you watch that? That was quite good.
I dipped in and out of it. But what I want to know, Ben, is this idea that's being floated about Nigel Farage on a dream ticket with Boris Johnson.
It's never going to happen. It's not going to happen at
What if
multiple
Boris Johnson
levels.
picked up the phone to Nigel Farage?
I mean, first of all, they're not the best of mates.
Right.
You know, they have had, you know, run-ins in the past. But Boris isn't the Boris Johnson of old. Remember, people seem to forget that actually before he was ousted from power, and actually I think the reason he was ousted from power was an awful set of council elections in which Wandsworth was lost for the first time in 40 years, Westminster was lost, West Oxfordshire was lost, Barnet was lost. Do you remember that?
I do.
And I think there were a couple of by-election results as well for that seat down in Devon, the name of which escapes me, which had been Conservative ever since it was formed in 1900 and something.
Yeah.
And so his popularity was waning. I think if Nigel wants to make a serious political impact, there is only one party, and it's Reform UK.
Oh, you are predictable. Listen, hold that thought, because we have got a little bit more of a pressing matter to talk about.